Those could be factors in the judge's ruling. We'll let you know what happens.
Oh, yeah. Interrupt us, Claudia, if something does happen. Thank you very much, Claudia Cowan, right there at the courthouse. Rachel Fiset is a co-founder, managing partner, and criminal defense attorney at Zweiback, Fiset, and Zalduendo. She's represented defendants in a wide variety of criminal cases, including white-collar crime and healthcare fraud. So, Rachel, as we await Judge Davilia's decision, what's your prediction, knowing and having been a lawyer in those types of courtrooms, how long, or if at all, she'll spend in prison?
I think what is most instrumental in this prediction is what the probation officer has recommended to the judge. So you have the prosecutor's recommendation of 15 years, you have her defense team's recommendation of house arrest, maybe 18 years max incarceration, and then you have the probation officer recommending 9 years of prison time. And that is generally what the judges pay the most attention to in cases like this. That is a recommendation that is supposed to be neutral, taking into all of the facts, all of the considerations, and making a thought-out middle ground recommendation in this point. So I believe 9 to 10 years is where we're going to end up today.
There is a major focus right now on this case, as far particularly as Silicon Valley is concerned, because there were some people who simply argued this was overzealous cart before the horse salesmanship, where she was promising all these things, hoping the technology would catch up. But instead, a jury actually said, no, this was outright fraud. She was lying, and she hurt a lot of investors. And, you know, she didn't get convicted on the you hurt patients who believed some of the erroneous results. But what about the algebra of deterrence, this concept that simply you can ensure that the penalty is meaningful enough in order to send a message to the rest of the world that these types of behaviors and occurrences must stop?
I think that will not be lost on the judge. That is not lost on this case. And the jury's finding was certainly not that it was overzealous, that it was knowing. And at one point in time, maybe it was overzealous salesmanship. But what had happened through time and through the amount of money raised was knowing fraud. And that is the finding. And I think the judge is very aware of that finding. The same judge oversaw Balzwani's case. And this was, again, the finding there, that these people knew they were committing fraud, they were making misrepresentations, and they were getting money based on a technology that did not exist. And that will send a strong message to startups in Silicon Valley that they need to do diligence and be careful.
You know, Claudia brought up the pregnancy issue. Elizabeth Holmes has a young toddler, and she is clearly now pregnant. I believe that was confirmed by her partner in one of the letters that I believe was put at the very top of this pile of more than 200 letters in support of a shorter or no sentence for Elizabeth Holmes. There are quite a few people who are shaking their heads saying, you know, if the judge falls for that, that's a sympathy play. She got listen, we don't judge why people get pregnant. But does something like that get taken into account for a lighter sentence? Is there that possibility?
I have seen this done before, whether it be pregnancy because she's at the age of getting pregnant. If she's incarcerated, she can't get pregnant again. There's so many reasons one could be pregnant at this moment. As for the judge, what I think it will more likely influence is the time that her sentence starts. So if she is sentenced, whatever the term is, they will likely give her time to give birth, maybe bond with the baby, and then the sentence will start. I do not think the judge will take the pregnancy into consideration, though, in the amount of time the sentence is.
Well, there's another scandal, before we let you go, Rachel, that is brewing right now in the business world, and that, of course, is the FTX crypto exchange collapse. Sam Bankman-Fried, the young 30-year-old who had founded this, and then it turned out to be pretty much a house of cards. It has completely gone down, and there are investigations right now. What did we learn, though, from the Theranos trial about how difficult it is to prove intent to, you know, produce fraud, instead of just, well, I actually believe that this was an operating business and I believed in it, et cetera, et cetera?
In a prosecutor's case, intent is actually always the hardest element to prove.
Right.
What was somebody thinking at the time they were making some sort of misrepresentations? Now, in this case, they were taking customer money and putting it in hedge funds and basically gambling with the customer money. That's a little deeper of an intent because those are just plain misrepresentations that were made as far as that goes. So I think that they have an easier case here than they did against Elizabeth Holmes.
Well, Rachel, thank you for talking us up to what is expected to be the sentencing of Elizabeth Holmes in the Theranos trial. She, of course, was convicted on 4 different counts. We will interrupt our programming if we do see something hit the wires. Good to see you, Rachel. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, speaking of which, that dragnet surrounding the FTX collapse may be expanding as U.S. investigators pile into the probe. Charlie has breaking news next. Closing bell 13 minutes away. The Dow is getting a more comfortable lead here, up about 206 points.